Great. So in the melt workshop, we basically go over the 4 R's of melt, which are reconnecting, rebalancing, rehydrating, and releasing. And in those 4 movements, we really start connecting to the why of the wellness. And we want to be connected not just to our outside of our body, what we can see with our common senses of sight and touch, but we also want to be connected to our inside or our body sense. So our not so common senses of understanding how our functional or our reflexive movements are. Because no matter if you are paying attention to it or not, your body is trying to consistently and constantly align itself so that your body actually maintains an upright posture. And because we are the only animals in the animal kingdom that actually functionally walk upright. Obviously, you've seen a bear maybe in the circus or an elephant on its hind legs. And obviously, on all 4s, animals walk upright, but upright meaning at a biped instead of a quadruped position. But with original strength, we're going to go over kind of a discovery from when you were born and how your body progressed into the mover that you were designed to be. So remember, this is a design that we're speaking of. You were designed to move. You were designed to move well. You were designed to move your entire life. You weren't just designed to deteriorate and fall apart slowly. When those things start happening, that is a connected tissue issue, typically, of your body not giving the right information at the right time. So understanding that all movement is sequenced. So if I'm walking in a sequenced pattern. You just think of it as walking, and it is a big toe, an arch, a heel, a calf, a knee, an opposite hip, a shoulder, a wrist, a head nod, a head turn. There's all these different sequences that actually have to line up. And by all means, you don't have to really pay that close attention to them because they were designed to you to work without you paying attention. That is a reflexive movement in you to learn how to walk. Even people in wheelchairs, even people who have no limbs, their body is coordinated in opposite motion. So their body is coordinated right arm and left shoulder and right arm and left hip and left arm and right hip. We are designed to move in opposition. And that is also the way our brain works, and interestingly enough, also the way our eyes work. And our body is designed to work so that we can work in opposition across the entire line of the body, which is exceptional because then that way we don't walk like this all over the place. And so, or we'd end up walking kind of in circles a lot. So we tend to walk actually relatively straight, and we then learn how to move that well as well. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to kind of take you backwards to move you forward. And then we are also going to go through and process the 3 main pillars of original strength, which are diaphragmatic breathing. They are working through the vestibular system, big word, and they are working the midline or the cross patterning of the body. All 3 of those systems working together are really how your body was designed to move. The first thing your body was designed to do was to breathe. Inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your nose. We actually are designed to breathe through our nose. But because of injury, accident, and so on, and actually lack of use or weight or injuries or any issues that we just kind of get used to, we start breathing through our mouth. And that shuts down and slows down our actual breathing mechanism and puts us into kind of our chest area. And then the second part of it is also, I'm just going to say this real quick. If everybody can mute their mics, that would be great, or I can go to the mic and mute it. But if you can mute your mics for right now, that would be fantastic. When we move, we have to move first from our breath first, which is an interesting way to think of moving. Then we move through our eyes, and then we move through our body. So our brain actually starts our breathing pattern even before we actually initiate even one movement. Our brain then initiates an eye movement pattern to see if things are safe, and then our body actually moves into a movement pattern with our physical body. So we have a lot of things that go on simultaneously. And so in movement patterns, what we get is just a second. And there we go. Sorry, Robin, I muted you, but you were clicking around a lot. So So we've got these three pillars of movement. We've got our breathing, our vestibular system, and our cross-patterning system. Again, the breathing is the first movement pattern that we actually have. We have that when we are born. We actually have it inside the womb, and when we come out, we actually take that first big breath, and our body then starts breathing through the nose. That's why you can actually drink milk and still breathe at the same time. That's why a baby can cry and still breathe at the same time. And so we learn, our body is then conditioned to moving and breathing simultaneously. From there, our vestibular system really is the first and number one organ that our body designed, or that was designed in our body. So the vestibular system, which you might have understand is kind of that balancing mechanism. If you've ever had any type of vertigo, that is part of a vestibular issue that is deep within the base of the brain. And it is what coordinates and balances every, not including none of it. It's all part of the vestibular system. Every movement, every balance pattern, every organ actually talks to the vestibular system. So we have 2 arms and legs, but we don't have 2 livers. So our body has to balance those things out. We don't have 2 ears that tend to work equally. They are different sides of the head on a single head. They have to balance things out. All that noise has to come in and get balanced. All of our walking, all of our eye movements can balance each other out. Now, our eyes don't move ocularly like a lizard. They move forward and they move in concert together. But even still, our right eye is seeing something different at the same time than our left eye is. So that vestibular system in the back, if you've ever stood up quickly and felt dizzy, it can be a combination of things, but it's very typical that it's your vestibular system that's kind of throwing you off balance. Or if you've rolled to one side and you feel like the world is spinning, that is your vestibular system. And your vestibular system will shut your movement down before you even know that your movement's being shut down. So if you start fearing a movement, your vestibular system will also kick in to see if you have enough balance, and will quite literally tell your body to stop moving very efficiently. And then it'll uncoordinate your body slightly, so you actually kind of feel offset, so your body wants to brace and break all movements so that your body stays actually safer. And so when it goes haywire is the problem. When you feel like you're nauseous, or you feel like you've got a headache constantly, or you turn over and you feel dizzy or disoriented, that is not typical, or that becomes typical, but it's not how you were designed. You were designed to function in all different types of movement patterns. As we age, because of injury, illness, and so on, we can get kind of clogged up, blocked up, and that vestibular system can get unmanaged. And then we can find ourselves more susceptible to spinning, or more susceptible to turning quickly to one side. Or if we have neck or atlas and issues in our neck where our skull rests into our spine, that also can keep us from balancing as well. So there's all types of functional things, but primarily it's a nervous system issue that comes out. What comes out of the vestibular system is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve travels down both sides of the neck. It's also known as the wandering nerve. And so that wandering nerve touches every organ of the body. It is the first nerve that was designed. And that nerve hits every single organ and makes sure every organ is working and functioning properly. Well, if you have a breakdown in one of your organs, that's sending a lot of information up into the body to slow the body down. So if you have gut or liver or stomach or heart or lung issues, that's going to put the brakes on your movement as well. And your body's going to think, I just don't move well, I just don't feel well. And in reality, your body's asking for something different. So one thing to remember is pain is a request for change. So in original strength, we don't jam work into the body. We subtly and slowly learn how to listen to the movement of the body, so your body isn't trying to fight pain, but you're trying to move to a place where the body doesn't have to deal with the pain. So we're never going to move into pain. We might butt up against it. We might have to breathe through it, but we're not going to just force our way into pain, and there is no such thing as no pain, no gain. It's just no pain, no pain. And so sometimes you might find that you're stretchy or you're stiff, but you have to understand if you have tolerable pain, and or if that's pressure into the body, or if that's something you need to put on the brakes for. The third area is going to be the cross-patterning movements of the body. When you were a baby, you came out, everything was great. Everybody looked at your eyes to see if you could move your eyes. Then the next thing they looked at is, can they control their head? Is that, whoa, that baby's so cool, it can control its head. And then we started lifting the head up and lifting the chest up. Then slowly that baby would kind of reach for something. And then, oh, that baby flipped over to the other side and the baby rolled. Now the baby's on his stomach, on the baby's belly, and the baby then keeps that head and starts lifting that chest up and maybe pushes itself to its hands. And then slowly begins to rock, maybe forward and back, and learns how to use the muscles, the wrists, the joints of the entire body. Then slowly from rocking, the baby decides, oh, I think I can push back into a squat. And from the squat, you stand up, and from standing, your body learns how to walk. All of those things are movement patterns, and they are balanced and predictable to each human being and are necessary to learn movement. So, thinking about this, if you have an issue with rotation or movement around the midline of the body, like that makes you throw you off balance or you feel weak on one side when you do that, maybe there's an issue that you can go backwards to. That would be like a knees rocking, shifting back and shifting forward, warming up the glutes, the back, and the shoulders. That can help you get out of that. So with that, original strength deals with what are called resets. We want to punch the button like as if you are a computer, and you push the off button or the reset button, and you reset to a previous movement. So the body begins to learn how to reset itself, and then the body actually learns how to move better and with more efficiency, and then the body can just progress. I have seen people not be able to do a push-up at all, do a couple of resets, down on the ground, they've got a push-up down. I've seen people doing a one-handed push-up, never being able to do a one-handed push-up. For me, what I learned how to do is I learned how to crawl for about 10 minutes at a time and just keep crawling, just like a baby learns how to crawl. And then I transferred that into running. And so to help me actually run more efficiently, I recentered my crawling. So my hips and my shoulders worked more efficiently. And so my body actually, your body, my body, our bodies have to move backwards very often to move forward. And it's not backwards forever. It can be backwards for a snap of the fingers because the nervous system can change at the speed that it wants to. So the body can change as quickly as the nervous system can get the signal from the bottom to the top, which is about 600 miles an hour. So you can't even hardly drive at 600 miles an hour being in a plane. If you're shot out of a plane at that speed, you'd fly and then fall. But your nervous system from your ankle to your head, about 600 miles an hour is how fast a nervous signal can get back to your brain. So you can change quite specifically that quickly. So what we're going to do today is I brought with me a couple of different books that you can order as well. You can get these copies on Amazon. If you're local to me, I can give you a copy as well. The first one, the main one we're going to be going through it's called Pressing Reset for the Everyday Person. Pressing Reset for the Everyday Person was an original pamphlet that the original strength folks, Tim Anderson, put together to make movement a little bit more simple. And we're going to be going over that today. There are other books in the Pressing Reset family. One is written by me, dun, da, 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 and it is Pressing Reset for Kids. So I have a degree in motor learning and development. I started this kind of path about 30 years ago, and I started actually learning how humans move. That's what my whole passion was. How do we learn how to move, and how do we get off that track so easily? And the typical reason why is because we think we need to constantly think forward, and very often we need to think somewhat in reverse about how we learned how to move and not just where we're going, or fear the movement that we don't have or that we don't know about or that we think we're going to get into. The biggest issue for most people is not that they don't move well, it's the fear of moving well or the fear of being injured. And so that'll stop you from moving very quickly. They also have another series of books. There is a Pressing Reset for Healthy Shoulders. There's also a Pressing Reset for Yoga. There's also a Pressing Reset for several other movement patterns as well. And they've also been translated into Japanese and Chinese and other various languages as well. So you can look online for those if you want. Again, if you live local, you can get a copy from me as well. Again, you can go and I wrote this more as a labor of love than a massive royalty earner and that kind of thing of the Pressing Reset for Children. But it was it was fun to actually change all the adult stuff into children's work, and so that you can take that into a classroom, you can work with grandkids, you can work with your friends, and really you can kind of do the exact same things, whether you're a child or at 4 or 40, you can do all the same movements because that's how your body was designed. So what we're going to do today is we're going to move through these movement patterns so that you can see how they do it. So we always, just like I said in MELT earlier last week, is that everything needs to have an assessment. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, it's hard to know when you've gotten it. So we're going to start with a baseline movement. And a baseline movement is simply a movement that you can repeat that is a baseline for you. And it can be something as simple as, it could be something as simple as standing there. Do you feel like you can stand? That's hard to know unless you go inside and do kind of like a reconnect like you do in MELT. Or we can do something very simple. And I'm going to have you guys choose between one of two things. There are several. There are so many different types of baselines that you could do. But for the sake of this, I'm going to have you do one or two different baselines. The first one, and you're going to choose in a second, is to simply take your arms up and overhead. And you're going to lower them back down again. If you have a mirror or somebody else in your house that can see that you're doing it, you can do that. And what you're going to do when you do any of these baselines is that you're not just taking your arms over your head and letting them fall back down. You're taking your arms over your head and you're noticing, oh, my left elbow doesn't really straighten all the way. Or I have pain right here in my shoulder. Or as I'm raising my arm up, that's only as far as I can actually get my arms before I do get into pain. So that's an arm raise. It's not just that you can, it's how does that feel to you. The other one is just to reach down and touch your toes. A goal for so many people in life is just the ability to reach down and touch their toes. And it's a good thing to be able to do. So think about reaching down and touching your toes. Oh, I feel my hamstrings are kind of tight. Oh, my head feels stuffy when I do it. Oh, my neck is kind of pinchy on the way back up, or as I roll up, it's like, oh, I feel kind of crabby in my lower back. So choose one of those two things. Do the movement for a second. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do it. And you don't have to hold it for very long because you're not trying to stretch. I mean, how many of us have tried to do all different types of stretches and exercises to get that shoulder, back, knee, hamstring, or whatever loosened up enough so we could do whatever thing we wanted to do. And then within 10 minutes or the next day, it's back again. So the idea with these resets is that you can very quickly get into a movement pattern that you thought maybe was ineligible for you anymore. So we're going to start standing up. We're also going to do these resets sitting down. We're also going to do the resets on the floor. So you'll have 3 different opportunities to see how all of these work in any kind of environment that you're in. So we're going to start with standing up. You're going to place your hands on your belly. And you're just going to begin to breathe diaphragmatically. How do you breathe diaphragmatically? You're going to put your tongue at the roof of your mouth. With your tongue at the roof of your mouth, with your tongue just behind your teeth. Kind of like you just took a big swallow. You're going to keep your mouth closed. Now, for the duration of this, I will be talking or else it'll get pretty quiet. So I'm not going to be diaphragmatically breathing for the most part, but when I ask you to, just kind of just nod or whatever, or I'll just nod too for that matter. So place your hands on your belly, close your mouth, and diaphragmatically breathe. And we're going to do this for about 30 seconds. So just allow your belly to expand. You're trying to breathe into the rib wall. You're not trying to breathe straight out into the belly. And you're not trying to breathe up into your chest. The reason why your hands are here is just to notice your breathing. Feel the rib cage expand out. If you want, you can close your eyes, but remember, eyes open connects you to your vestibular system. We're going to go in all the way for 1 minute. You may notice as you breathe deeply, your neck relaxes just a little bit. You may feel more balanced actually as you breathe. You may even notice a sense of just kind of well-being or ease in the body. Those are all reflexive nervous stimulus inputs. All right, so about a minute of breathing diaphragmatically, just a minute. Go ahead and redo your baseline. Maybe your arms went overhead. My left elbow straightened up a little bit easier. Maybe you forward folded. For me, my hamstrings were just a little bit easier. So at the end of this, I'll tell you, but what I want from you is I want a thumbs up. If you felt like there was a difference, you might be like, I don't know, I didn't really notice much, Karen. And, or a like, wow, that was great. Oh my gosh, I'm so surprised at my body. Nice job, Kathy, very good. So you're looking for better, same, or different. Or we always start at our best that we are right now. We always start at good. You always start at good because you just got up out of your chair. Then there's better, and then there's best. So best is like, oh, I can put my hands all the way around and they could just be no big deal. Or I can put my hands or my elbows all the way on the ground. That might be best. But for you, good might be good enough for what you need right now. So think of good, better, and best. Not, oh, I'm good or bad. And or you can think of better, same, or different. I was better than I was before. It's about the same as it was before. Or it just feels kind of different than it was before. All right, so let's move on to the next thing. You can let your hands rest by your side, and you're going to begin with your eyes. Now, I know it might be hard to see my eyes from where you are, but believe me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my tongue at the roof of my mouth. I'm going to try to breathe diaphragmatically, and I'm going to look up with my eyes, with my like over my eyebrows, and look down towards the floor. Look up towards the ceiling, and look down towards the floor. Keep going. Look up towards the ceiling, and look down towards the floor. And then you can start adding a head nod. Make sure you let your eyes move first, and then your nose kind of follows. And then look up, and then look down. So the vestibular system gets changed by the height and the movement of the eyes and this neck movement here. Also notice when I lift my chin up, I'm pulling more stress and stretch into my vagus nerve. So you're just lifting the chin up, dropping the chin back down, lifting the chin up, and you're not trying to race your breath or beat your breath. You could actually do this quite slowly. You got about 15 more seconds of this. And if there's any pain, you do less, you move slower, or find out if you're breathing. When we hold our breath, that's another indicator that the body wants us to stop. Go ahead and pause. And then you're going to begin to look to your left and look to your right. Just with your eyeballs first, look to your left and look to your right. Then let your head follow after your eyes. Look to your left, let your eyes move, and let your head move. Notice I'm not flinging my head back and forth. I'm actually allowing my eyes to lead the way, and I'm following after them. Again, make sure you're still breathing. When we turn right and left, that can shut our breathing down again because forward-facing breathing is much safer for us. That's where the lion is out in front of us. If we're the little deer, that's where something is coming at us, and we're going to keep our eyes straight on it. We don't look to our side and see if we can move away. We turn and we face, and then we back up if we're in fear. And so what you want to do is notice when your body starts noticing that fear happening. Are you breathing? Are you moving too fast? Is this just not the right angle for you at this time? One more time to the right and to the left. And then let's redo your baseline. So go ahead and take your arms overhead or bring your hands to the ground. Doing so, now you're going to see how the vestibular system helps with your balance, with your body's ability to coordinate your nervous system and your response. Same. Good, better, or best? Better, same, or different? About the same? Good. Good, about the same. So because it's our vestibular system and we're just doing something for about a minute, it's not necessarily always the number one thing. It's just getting our brain and our body coordinated. Good. Anybody have a great experience? Like it was like, that was the best ever so far? Okay, so we're going to move on to the last one. The last one is just crossing the midline of the body. It's super simple. We call it a cross crawl. And it is basically a walking pattern. So you're just taking your right hand to your left knee and your left hand to your right knee. You're not trying to cross the midline of the body. You're not trying to do some sort of aerobics movement. It's just as if you were walking forward Your hand is just touching. It can touch the top of your thigh. It can touch your calf. You just want to try not to crisscross applesauce and make this a dance move. And then again, you want to see if you can go back to your breathing. And you can also add your eye movements to this if you want. Your head movements, you can look to one side. Make sure you're breathing though. You want to look up, you can look down, you can look left, and you can look right. Good, we'll go ahead and pause, recheck your baseline. Take your arms up. How's your breathing doing? Do you feel like you can take in more breath now? Reach down and touch those toes. You might feel like you can go deeper. You might feel like you can kind of reach further to the ground. Or it might feel very similar. But think of these three things as the baseline resets of every single movement that you can do. So if you were sitting for a long period of time and you needed to stand up, just crossing the midline can help that body wake up because it is a nervous system action. Your brain is smarter than you think it is, and your brain can actually help you coordinate your movement and get your movement feeling better without even a lot of activity. So even if you were stuck in a chair, you can do cross crawls and get your brain to recenter. How'd you guys do on that? Good, fantastic. Great, Kathy. Was that too difficult? No? Pretty good? Pretty easy? Good. All right, so we're going to get into the chair next. So if you have a chair, you can sit in any kind of chair. It can be a couch. It can be, I prefer it to be some sort of bent chair. I'm going to kind of turn off to the side just slightly, so then that way it's not, you're not seeing me straight on so much. But you're going to sit nice and tall. We're going to go back to that breathing pattern. I want you to kind of do, you're going to do a rotation actually no, you're going to still go back to your baseline movement. Your arms overhead, or if you were doing arms overhead, add a forward fold to it instead. Okay, so we're going to go back to our breathing. Big deep breaths. Notice I'm sitting up quite tall. Now remember, the reason why I'm redoing this again is really so that you can get practice in seeing different positions that your body actually can restore in. Maybe you don't restore as good standing up because there's a lot of action for you. Keep breathing. Maybe sitting is a little bit more comfortable and safe for your whole body, and so you feel better in it. So your body's going to respond a little bit faster. Good. Go ahead and pause and take your arms up and overhead. See if that changed. If your arms can go higher, maybe you've got some extension in your chest. If you want to stand up and reach towards your toes. Now, very typically, people would think if you're sitting, then it's going to shorten your ability to have length in your hamstrings. But really, ideally, if you breathe, your body should function fantastically. It's the number one issue that causes more pain is lack of breathing. It causes spine pain, it causes rib pain, which includes and then causes lower back pain and quadricep pain, hip pain, and then eventually knee pain, shoulder pain, all these other pains. And so understanding that breathing can actually get you out of most pain, but you have to learn to go back into it and sequence it into the body again. All right, from here, we're going to do our head nod. So draw your chin up or lift your chin up, look down towards your navel, look up towards the sky. Continue to breathe diaphragmatically. Look up and look down. Look up and look down. One more time, look up and look down. You may notice your neck's moving a lot easier. Look to your right, and then eyes move, look to your left. Now notice when you're doing this right and left, your body's beginning to want to rotate. So we're going to add the rotation in right here. So as you look to your right, I want you to take your left hand to your knee and maybe the right hand to the back of the chair. And then follow. So you look over, opposite hand comes to your knee and to the chair. Look over first. So notice I'm turning my head first. I'm going to take my opposite hand to my knee without my same leg caving in. Look over. So I'm now adding crossing the midline and my vestibular and my breathing. So I'm moving my rib cage, I'm moving my spine. Now, if you can't go that far, you only go as far as it's comfortable for you. You're never trying to move into pain. You're always trying to notice where your body is moving and where it feels safe. And then your body will slowly give you more information about how your body's doing. Good, go ahead and pause, and you're gonna go right hand to left knee, left hand to right knee. Nice and simple. And I know sometimes simple seems like, oh, this doesn't work all the time. It literally works all the time. The one thing you have to do is do it to make it work. If you don't do it, it doesn't work. If you stop breathing, turns out that's a problem. And then go ahead and come on up. You can check your arms. You can check your forward fold. For me, much better on the forward fold, even though I was sitting the whole time, which means my hamstrings would have been shortened while I was sitting. But for me, my forward fold was better. So, and then, how'd you guys do on that one? Good, fantastic. Good, nice, Kathy, good, nice, good. So the last one, the last way we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna add some better movements on, some bigger movements on, which I'll show you, is just on the ground. So go ahead and lay on the ground. You're gonna have your knees bent, and you're gonna have your arms resting on your belly. So once again, your hands are on the ground. Your back is on the ground. Tongue's gonna be, and we're gonna start adding these things in a little bit faster. So we're gonna diaphragmatically breathe. Again, diaphragmatic breathing is you're only breathing through your nose, both inhalation and exhalation. You're keeping your tongue against the roof of your mouth, and you're breathing to the width of your rib cage, not the height of your belly and not your chest. And then as we add on to it, we're going to pick your head up and look towards our navel, and then lower our head back and look towards the wall behind us. And then chin up and look towards your navel, and then roll your head back and look behind. And again, chin up and then back down. Now, if picking your head up from the ground, that's too much for you, you're just going to nod your head like you're squishing your chin into your sternum and then look up. Or maybe you're just moving your eyes back and forth. That's totally fine. So from here, look to your right, turn your head to your right, and then turn your head to your left. Pick your head up to the center, turn to your right, and then turn to your left. Notice your rotation. Does your shoulder want to follow you, or can you keep that shoulder back? Good. And then the last one of cross patterning is going to be bringing your right knee and left knee up, and we're going to do what's called a dead bug. So you're going to take your right arm overhead as your left foot drops, and your left arm overhead as your right foot drops. Do as best you can. You can also do less, where you just keep your feet on the ground and you cross crawl on the ground. If that's a little bit more functional for you right now, then that dead bug is a little bit too much for your nervous system to connect to. Just cross crawl. Same idea, just a little bit less at this moment. Good, and then pause. Now here's the trick. You got to get back up. Roll yourself to one side, standing all the way up. And then let's take the arms up and overhead. Now that to me was my best so far for my arms coming up overhead. Very simple, very easy. Then I roll forward, head down, just drops a lot easier, and I roll myself up. No tension, no pressure in the back. Good. For me, my forward fold was the best. How'd you guys do on that? Thumbs up, thumb side, don't know. Good, nice, good. Yay, yay, cool. It's always good to feel good. Remember, it feels good to feel good, always. And then second of all, we never need to move into pain, because the body doesn't need to have pain to tell it to stop. We really can stop before we just grind the body down. So remember, it feels good to feel good. And believe that in yourself when you start feeling better, because then you're going to know that the body's actually responding in a better way, and your body's going to actually heal faster, your body's going to get stronger faster, your body's going to recover faster if you actually treat it with a little bit of niceness. All right, so we're going to move to the chair just as an option for some movement patterns that maybe you wouldn't have noticed that actually are from a baby movement pattern. So like when we were a baby, one of the first movements that we did was just pick up our head. So that's a very simple movement pattern. But then the next movement is a rocking movement. I'm going to do it on the ground. I'm going to do it on the ground real quick. Most of you have probably seen a baby do this. They're just sitting on all fours. They sit back and they kind of do this lunging thing forward and back. Well, the purpose of this is to get them to propel enough. It develops the squatting muscles so the body can push itself to upright. So we're going to do this starting actually on a chair. So you can face the seat of a chair and do this simply. So like say you're outside or maybe you're in your kitchen or whatever, you don't have the space to get on the ground or you just don't want to. You can actually do this on a counter, on a chair or something. So after you would do your breathing and your head movements, before you would do maybe cross patterning, you can do what's called knees rocking. Place your hands on a chair. So notice I'm kind of in an all fours position and I'm just going to rock back and rock forward. Notice how I kind of keep my weight on the ball of my feet as I come forward and I sink back into my hips. I'm keeping my head up. This is going to increase the spine muscles to help me actually have a better posture. Also to help my extension, because the more your body can be extended, the better you breathe, i.e. all of this comes back to breathing. And then you're just rocking back and forth. So you're developing the ankles, the knees, the hips, the shoulders, the spine even as you're doing this. So you can do a bird dog from here, and a bird dog is an oppositional pattern like that dead bug, and you're going to reach out right arm, left leg. Now I realize this is quite simple. The other day, well, about a month or so ago, I tweaked my back. We'll call it tweaked my back. The only thing I could do was lean against the wall and do these things. So I leaned my hands into the wall and I did head nods and knees rocking and bird dogs with my hands on a wall while I was standing. And then slowly I could do it on a chair. And then slowly I could get myself to the ground. I just had to respect my body at that time. Go ahead and pause and then bring yourself up. Good. So you've just now crossed pattern. You've shifted in back and forth into your hips. Now recheck your baseline. Good, nice bird dogs. Good, recheck that baseline and see if those hamstrings feel even better. Maybe your arms actually even go over your chest. How do those ribs feel when you breathe into them? That's a big deal. If you can expand and take more oxygen in and take more breath in, move the diaphragm. The diaphragm is attached into the psoas. The psoas touches the thighs. It's the link between the upper body and the lower body, and the body actually can recover and heal better. So we did knees rocking and bird dog on the chair. We can do them on the ground as well. So again, if your hands and knees, and it doesn't particularly matter if your toes are pointed back or your toes are curled under. It's a decision that you make to maybe strengthen those muscles of the front of the shins, or maybe you need to strengthen the muscles at the back of the knees and the back of the calves. So curl your toes under if you want for this first one, and you're just going to begin to eyes forward, head forward, chest forward, and just begin knees rocking. Now again, if you need to go back to the chair and do this on the chair, go ahead and do that. And you're trying to breathe again through the nose. You're going slow enough so you're not trying to do this and kind of pant or open your mouth. As soon as you open your mouth, you know that you're moving too fast or it's just too much for your body at that moment. These are resets. These aren't exercise in the same classic way. But you can develop strength. See how much strength it takes to push the ground away and pull yourself in. You think of a baby's head is 30% of its body weight. So the baby has to be pretty strong. We're going to hold its head up. And you can do that too. You can be strong, just like a baby. Good. Go ahead and pause back and just feel that stretch in the ball of your feet. And then we're going to do that bird dog again. So now you're going to reach out right arm and left leg, and then left arm and right leg. Notice I'm not trying to overreach. I'm not trying to reach towards something out in front of me. I'm not trying to reach back behind me at this point. There's all kinds of variations you can do, but you always want to try to start with the most basic. And again, you're still trying to breathe through your nose. And notice if your body's kind of moving out of a position that your body's comfortable with. Good. One more time. And then let's come on up. Come on up to standing. And then recheck your baseline. Drop down. Take those arms up overhead. And feel how that body's moving. So with some very simple movements, breathing, eye movements, head movements, and crossing the midline of the body can actually become stronger. Even though these don't seem like strength moves, they are actually strengthening the nervous system, which will literally strengthen the musculoskeletal system. So this movement right here takes balance. That's strength on this one leg. This movement right here takes the ability to put weight down into your right foot and left foot. You have to coordinate your movements. So realizing just because it isn't high intensity doesn't mean your body's not taking it in and learning from it. Now you can make things bigger and harder and stronger, but ideally what you're looking for is doing less than more so that the body actually functions better within each movement. So one of the last things we're going to do is we're going to do a rolling pattern and a crawling pattern. So the quintessential movement of a child would be the rolling, when they roll finally from their back to their stomach or their stomach to their back. And I'll show you. Watch me first, because it all kind of comes again in coordination. If you can get onto the ground, you're going to be on the ground. And I'll show you this in a chair as well. Your arms are going to be up by your side, up over your head like an X. Your legs are kind of down also. So your body's in the shape of an X. You're going to pick your head up and you're going to look towards the direction that you want to travel. And then you're going to reach until you roll onto your stomach. Then you're going to pick your head up, and then you're going to let your head move, your arm move, and your leg follow. Now, very typically when we roll, we want to roll, and we bring our leg over, and we roll like a log. And babies do that. But I want you to go slow enough and think about it. Head up, reach across, keep watching your hand, and letting yourself just roll segmentally so the body rolls more efficiently. If you have the room, go ahead and lay on the ground and try that. You can also, on your chair, a roll can be as simple as when we were sitting there and you turned over and you rotated. And then you looked back over and you rotate back. And you look over and you rotate. So notice my hip and my shoulder are moving from my eyes. So again, if you're seated, look over your shoulder and rotate all the way around. Look back and come back. Good. So when you rewatch this video, you'll be able to see what rolling pattern should be. Also, you can look up originalstrength.com or .net, and you can get more and see all different types of videos. You can go onto my site, Susie Gillette on YouTube, and also look up rolling patterns. Really can strengthen the entire body from the inside rotation all the way to the outside. So if you're having a hard time with walking or running, rolling is your number one thing to do. Okie doke. So the last one we're going to do is going to be crawling. So crawling can be anything. Like when I said that I hurt my back, I had to crawl on the wall. I'm going to turn away for a second, but I literally taught myself to crawl on the wall. And I just crossed the midline of my body by using the wall and the weight of my body against the wall. You can do it on a chair or a countertop, of course, where you would just kind of crawl around the chair. You're moving your right hand and your left. Seems kind of odd, but it can coordinate your right and your left. Also, if you have a long counter or the back of your couch. On the floor, crawling is like a bird dog, except a little bit in motion. Eyes forward, head forward, chest forward, and you just crawl forward. Slide your knee in, right hand moves with left leg, left hand moves with right leg. And the same goes for in reverse. Now, for a lot of people, they say, well, this bugs my knees or this bugs my wrists. And my suggestion would be, again, to go up to an earlier movement and to do rolling first and really warm up and deal with the shoulders. Do it crawling on a chair or on a countertop or on the wall. So notice I'm moving. I'm not really looking down. I'm looking forward, and I'm crawling with my right hand and left knee pretty much at the same time. The reason for moving at the same time is because that's really the syncopation or the coordination of your walking. Now, I told you early on that one of my goals was to do 10 minutes of continuous crawling. Well, I did it with my knees off the ground, not my knees on the ground, and I did it to help me with my running because it helped me coordinate my right sides and my left sides better. I learned how to use my shoulders for my running. I learned how to use my toes more for my running. Now, I'm not saying you have to learn how to run, but I'm saying if you're going to move, learn how to move better. And then you're going to learn how to feel better. So one more time, I'm going to crawl forward and back. If you're joining me on this, that's great. Or if you've just been watching me crawl and wonder if I was ever going to stop. Good. And then come up. And then let's recheck the baseline one more time. So go ahead and take those arms up and overhead. Take your arms down. And then if you want to touch your toes, take your hands all the way to the ground. Let your head drop. And then come back up. So those are the basic movements. Remember, we have breath patterns are number one. If ever you're feeling stressed, out of balance, uncontrolled, your shoulders, back, neck, knee, arms, whatever hurt, check your breathing and see if you're breathing well. You may be breathing all up here. You may be not letting your vagus nerve relax. So your vagus nerve is the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest kind of nervous system. The other side is your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight and flight. We as humans tend to live in the sympathetic nervous system. This is why we have so much, I will say, this is why we have so many gut problems, heart problems, immune system problems, inflammatory problems. It's because we're constantly dealing with stress all day long and we don't release it very easily. So breathing is so important for the entire body to work and function well. Then that vestibular system, those eye movements. If you're feeling off balance, uncoordinated, not working well in right and left sides, check your eye movements. Check your head movements. Does my head not turn even as well to right or left? Does my head not lift very well up or down? You should be able to get your chin all the way to your sternum. You should be able to get the back of your head all the way to the top of your shoulders. Ideally, are those movement patterns. If you can't, you don't just quit and you don't just overdo to try to find it. You slowly work through those, and then can you work the oppositional patterns of the body in any kind of way possible? Can you touch those knees? Can you do this sitting, standing, laying down, on your side, walking, and so on? A great test is to put a backpack with a water bottle or two in your bag, put that backpack on your back, and then go for a walk at a slow pace, slow enough to keep your mouth closed and still walk without slumping over or without opening your mouth to breathe. And breathe for it and walk as long as you can to see how long you can walk with your mouth closed, you're still diaphragmatically breathing, and your eyes are moving. You'll know when your body's had too much because your mouth will open up. So I want to encourage you in a couple of things. I want to encourage you for 3 minutes a day to breathe for a minute, move your eyes and your head for 1 minute, and then cross the midline of your body for 1 minute. That's it. Just 3 minutes a day. It's kind of like eating almonds, just 1 can a day. It's all I ask. 3 minutes a day. It's not very much. It's simple, but it can be challenging to get to because it is so simple. It can be done sitting, standing, or lying down. I would highly suggest you not do it while you're in bed, getting ready for bed, or trying to wake up. You'll just probably go back to sleep. But the idea is that you can, in 3 minutes, reset the entire body so the body begins to work better, move better, and really be able to move in the direction that your body was designed to move intentionally your entire life. And we are done. Let me turn your mics back on, or you can turn them on. So go ahead and unmute yourselves. I can't figure out how to unmute you guys. Ask all to unmute. Thank you. Cool. Any questions, you guys?
Is work a good place to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Work is perfect because you're sitting probably at work, yeah? Yeah, so you've got a chair. Looks like you can nod your head. And can you touch your right hand to your left shoulder? Can you touch your left hand to your right shoulder? Boom. You just did 3 resets. Yeah, and you're getting paid. So yes, you can do this anywhere. I would probably not lay on the ground at work. Someone may call you. Someone may call the police or the fire department. Yeah, HR. So I would definitely choose where you're going to do these things. But again, yes, you can do them sitting, standing, kneeling, lying, and that kind of thing. Good question. Anybody else?
A lot of the stuff that put pressure on our shoulders,
Yes.
that bothered me.
Sure.
So is that something that I keep doing and it'll eventually get stronger?
How did it feel when you were laying on your back?
Fine.
Do it on your back then.
Okay.
Yeah. It turns out you have all different sides. You have the front side and the back side. So if the front side's not working great, go to the back. Lay on your back, breathe on your back, move on your back, get your limbs to move on your back. The ground is super safe. And so you can't hardly injure yourself while laying there. But as soon as you flip over onto your front, even like a baby, where do they spend the majority of their time when they're first learning to move? On their back. And then we move them to their tummy to crawl and roll and all that kind of stuff. Same thing with you. Reset to the back first if you can.
And will that then eventually I'll be able to do it on the front?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My suggestion is to go to the front, use that as your baseline. Just put your hands on the ground, get into an all fours or a quadruped position. So like a position like this. So you're in this position. Do whatever you need to do. Maybe just pick your hand up. Notice if that bothers you. Flip over onto your back. Do your breathing, your head nods, and dead bugs, and then recheck your baseline. Your baseline is your baseline. It can be different every time you come to it. Remember, pain can be a baseline too. If you're out of pain, guess what? You beat your baseline. 100%. If you're not in pain, turns out you're not in pain. It's not a mystery. It's just you're not in pain. Don't go hunting for it. It doesn't serve well on the table. It actually is not a good dessert either. Pain is not good, right? No one wants to be in pain. Anything else?
What would be a good baseline when you're sitting?
Standing.
Like let's say I'm not going to stand up and do a forward fold.
Right.
In my
Uh-huh.
What would be a good baseline?
Probably just nodding your head and noticing if your head nods. Because when we're sitting, we tend to push our head forward, our neck gets stiff, and our shoulders slump forward. So, can you nod your head, and does that bother you, or can you turn your head to the right and to the left? So just a simple baseline as nodding your head can be your baseline. You're like, oh yeah, it kind of is stiff when I start doing this. So you start with your breathing, and then instead of starting with head nods, start with head turns. And don't do head nods, and then do cross crawls on your knees or on your shoulders. Just touch the opposite side of your body, and then check your head nods and see if they're all of a sudden better. And it's not just that they're all of a sudden, again, this isn't magic, but what it seems like is magic is that how fast the nervous system can respond to all of this stuff. It's not that your body is like, I convinced you that you felt better.